My only quick question is Elon buying Black Twitter? I mean, is that involved in the deal, or has anyone asked that? Is it in the fine print?
You know where he's from, so I'm pretty sure he's not trying to buy shit, but he definitely will appropriate.
All right, I got a dad story. I had to just like, this was, so in my face last night. I couldn't even wait to get the show started to tell all this to you. So it was just one of those spooky moments, and I think you're gonna see here. I think it's really a sign that we're all totally screwed, but we'll find that out. So last night, I'm tucking my son Gabe in bed. He's 8 years old, and okay, all right. There may have been a consumption of some THC in a gummy. It happens. You know how it is. It's that time of the night. You gotta calm yourself down. You gotta make sure you're all going. And we're having that nice sort of like kid going to bedtime sleep conversation. And he was talking about how he would look at lights and close his eyes and still see the reflection of the lights or the dots, or if he looks at the sun, I'm saying, well, the sun, that's just, it's the impression left behind on your retina. Here I am trying to be, the pedophamilius. I'm trying to, tell my son, give him all the information in the world, guide him through and be all that. And then he quietly he talks about some of the stuff he sees when he closes his eyes in the dark, and he leans into me close to me. He says, Dad, sometimes when I close my eyes, I see ones and zeros. The fuck? Right? Now, keep in mind, I've shown my son a lot of movies. I have not shown him that movie. But that little bastard
Neo.
Right, fucking leans in last night and tells me he's seen The Matrix is clearly what's going on here, right? So, holy shit. All I was waiting for him is to just look right at me and say, I know Kung Fu. That was, that was all that was missing from that scene, last night. Unbelievable. So,
So wait, hold on. Wait,
yeah.
Does that mean your kid is Neo, or does that mean your kid is Cyrus?
I have no idea. It just means that he's,
that's right.
Clearly all of a sudden, I actually asked him, I said, were those numbers green? Kind of coming down. He's like, no, they're black and white. I'm like, okay. Right. So, the aesthetic was a little off, I guess, but
until you find out your kid's colorblind.
I guess. Yeah, that's doesn't appear to be the case, but who knows? It's a couple things going on. Yeah, it was the spookiest damn moment. I'm like, okay, then. He's never seen this movie. He has no idea of the reference. And yeah, he's talking about seeing ones and zeros in binary and the future. And it's like, okay, if he ends up flying. I was almost tempted to ask if he, was seeing any raves going on in a big cave underground. So, is there like a big 90s style? Is that everyone look like they're on ecstasy, son? And they're all just kind of bumping up against each other, and we don't even know why.
Before our TSG fans hit us in the comments, I meant Cypher. Sorry, is the young Fink Neo or Cypher?
Cypher. Well, I can't blame him either way, right? If we're all just waiting to be blue or red pilled, what have you, depending on what media you consume, and what theories you believe in. Nevertheless, well, you have landed in the middle, possibly, of the Matrix. It is, when you have actual scientists out there like Neil deGrasse Tyson, sometimes theorize, there are other scientists sometimes theorize that we are living in the middle of an alien simulation. It's, they give it legitimate process, but somewhere in that simulation, you have found your way to the steam gentleman. I am here with our panel of geek ready to convene again, ready to have a meeting of the minds. Just heard the voice of the fantastic and amazing Three of Clubs. Let's welcome him to the show today. How you doing?
What it do? Howdy do? I am doing well, and yourself?
Oh, doing fantastic. It's a gorgeous day here. Nice spring day here. The 8 days of the year that we live for this in New England, where everything is just right. Windows are open. You just hang out, and sit on your porch. And
no, it's beautiful. I was looking forward to enjoying it and getting out of class before the teacher realized that they did not bring up the homework assignment from the weekend. And then Mr. Starchild made sure that the teacher was aware that we had talked about the homework and volunteered me to go first, knowing full well I didn't do my homework.
Yes, in the conversation and warm up before the show, Greg, I mean, in all fairness, I am going to stand by what I said earlier. Greg started by throwing you under the bus, but then he stopped and he talked you into it. So I got to give him some credit there.
Never been hard.
I'm going to be honest with you. Like he pulled us some salesmanship. And speaking of our top salesman of the month here, he can have that coffee, because coffee is for closers. Let's introduce the one, the only, and the amazing Starchild. How you doing today?
Feeling all right. Feeling like the great facilitator, because whereas I know that growth and change can be terrifying, I will never give up on giving all of my friends the opportunity to rise up. So it might feel like a setup, but it is a rise up, because he's gonna step up to the plate and rise to this occasion.
Amen, brother Gregory. We are here.
You bastard. No, see, now he talked me into he talked me into in the same way you push someone in front of something, and while you're doing it, you go, look out. Yeah, that's the way he talked me into it. Thank you.
Sometimes you gotta just shove that bird out of the nest, but that motherfucker gonna fly.
A lot of dead birds around you. I'm telling you that
right. Myself, because we relate to the show through pop culture and movie references. I see the two of you in the waters of Martha's Vineyard with the cardboard shark. Cardboard shark fin, right? And Rashawn's going, he made me do it. He talked me into it.
Whoa, if we're following the last 10 minutes of events, it's the other way around.
All right, just saying. It's there's a cardboard shark fin, and it's out in the water, and you two are involved in it somehow. I don't know how we ended up here, but nevertheless, that is where we're at.
It ended up there.
Except for we would have been shot.
Well, yeah, there is that. Yes, they were on the wrong end of some rifles at that point. So still, nevertheless, well,
how are you, Josh?
I'm doing all right. Like I said, I'm here. I'm excited. It is just that beautiful weather, and really looking forward to digging into this particular subject, because it kind of came from my own musing. We wanted to come to the table to talk about that thing, and whatever pop culture, we really love, but we love our pop culture, and we love the social commentary that goes along with it, because they are truly intertwined. I mean, let's just face it, it's always a reflection. What we're watching, what we're reading, what we're talking about, it always, has that moment in the zeitgeist. And I was thinking about this week about, well, I'll get to it a little later on, about a particular work that in my mind really just nailed it. And I think that's where we want to go, is just something that showed up that really surprised us, and that, called out where we were going to end up so clearly and so concisely, or at least something that, that approximated the case. I call it a kind of future shock, right? We all watched Back to the Future, and we assumed that by now, because it was supposed to take place by around now, that we were going to have the flying cars. Did not nail it so much. Did get the Cubs thing. Kind of did get the Cubs.
Didn't get the hoverboards.
Didn't get the hoverboards. No, the hoverboards were not there. That being the case, I think, was it like 2012, 2016 that they go to? I forget where they're supposed to be. No hoverboards. No self-tying shoes in quite that way, or self-drying clothes. That would be kind of useful. That would still have some good use to it. And the hoverboard would be awesome, but what would Tony Hawk do now? I don't know. Would it be the same thing to watch him go through a half pipe on a hoverboard?
He'd do it.
He'd do it.
He'd do it.
He'd still do it. But really, we just wanted to get, kind of take a look back or just, each bring our own influences of those things that really got it right. We can do another whole episode on where it went wrong, but that's a little easier to see. Sometimes I feel, believe it or not, the things that called it kind of get forgotten in the midst of time. So with that incredible amount of salesmanship that Brother Starchild gave to us today, and got and got none other than the 3 of clubs to step up to the plate first. We're gonna give him he's rising up. That's it. He's got a cup. He's just gotten a sip of coffee or tea or whatever. What you drinking over there?
It's coffee, and despite what Mr. Baldwin may feel, it's not just for closers. It's also for people who make their own coffee, still coffee, go Dunkin' Donuts or Tim Hortons. I mean, coffee's for a lot of people.
Coffee is
want
for
to
a
make
lot
it
of people.
clear. Yeah, absolutely. I agree with that.
Yeah.
So
and the steak knives aren't so bad either. Okay, that's all I'm saying.
All right. You got a set of steak knives.
Yeah, no. These aren't the Glen Ross leads. I just want to make that clear.
Oh, it's the fucking leads. It's the fucking leads. All right. I need the good leads. I need the Glengarry leads.
Even though technically that was a play, we can probably point out some things on capitalism that play called out very well.
Without a doubt.
If I'm technically starting, and I feel like I am,
I'm gonna give you your 10 minutes of time starting officially right now. So
you could have started 3 minutes ago, but I appreciate it. I just want to know when to mark it, and I will mark it by one of quotes that I've always loved in my entire life, even though it's not actually what I'm going to cover, but whatever. If you prick us, do we not bleed? If you tickle us, do we not laugh? If you poison us, do we not die? And if you wrong us, shall we not revenge? That is, of course, from my man, Shylock from Merchants of Venice. A little book you may have heard about. Came out in 1600, at least published 1600. Some people say it came out a little bit before, but another thing that my man Willie Shakes was able to point out with,
Are you trying to suck up to your Jewish co-host here? Is that what you're doing here, quoting Shylock?
No, not at all. It's like a lot of things, it harkens back to one of my biggest influences, my father. He actually would quote Merchants of Venice all the time. That was one of his favorite books. Also, considering that he was very big on teaching me about history, especially American history, and especially Black history. Part of the reason why I grew up the way he did is because some of the stories that he would tell me about would be about the Freedom Riders, and how in a lot of different ways our brothers and sisters aren't all Black. Some are fair skin, and they follow a different religion, and they're known as Jewish individuals. So I grew up just kind of thinking they're just kind of like cousins or whatever. Like it was either Black people in my life, Mexicans, because I also from California, and then Jewish people, and then kind of expanded from there. So I've always loved that quote. I've always loved that character. Frankly, I feel like that character was right the entire time. I think he got a bum rap, to be clear. I mean, who else in that story was okay with getting ripped off? No one else. So they're gonna be mad with the guy who finally called someone out for it. Like the dude's a deadbeat. And he wanted his money back. I got it. But I wasn't even actually going to go to that. I was just thinking, like, in the sense of if we're looking at books who call things out and we're pretty accurate about it, it's kind of fucked up that book that came out over 400 years ago is still one of the more accurate depictions of anti-Semitism we have that people still skip over, but it's clear as day. And if Willie Shakes was calling it out in 1600, I would hope we would get a little bit better at it, but clearly, with space lasers, it's kind of pausing some people. So who knows where we'll end up on that, but I feel like he was right on that. So that's one book, I guess, got things right. I totally did not understand the assignment up until like 5 minutes ago when we were talking about it and the lead in. So another reason why I wasn't prepared is I was stuck on an idea that actually had nothing to do with what we were going to talk about. It's good that I look for clarification right before class starts, but whatever. Homework is homework, and this isn't my home, but I'll do the work. Now, with that said, moving into it, I was going to talk about times I was supposed to be right. I can tell you, other than a few relationships, these two individuals, definitely an example. My wife being an example, and after that kind of goes downhill. But other than a few relationships, I've been wrong a shitload. I'm wrong a lot. I'm wrong so much that I'm actually so used to it. I prefer it. It's weird when I'm right. I could point out, properties that I've liked, music that I like, but even then, I'm really just stretching. Like I could say, yeah, sure, I liked Adele before she was Adele. She was fat Adele, but I had nothing to do with that. That was an iTunes free download. It was the same thing with several groups. Like I can sit here and act like I discovered them, but iTunes like, here's some free music. I'm like, all right, cool, let's go with it, and then it moves on from there. I was gonna talk about times where I knew I was gonna be right, but in fucked up moments where I also knew it just was not gonna go my way. And funny enough, it kind of ties in weirdly enough with how we started this conversation, where I got goaded into something. I was wearing my brother's shirt to a party. Shout out to my man Frankie Topham. Rest in peace, my man. This is for you. I'm sure a few car accidents that I've skipped over that I probably should have had. You probably are up there protecting me. But I was over at my man Frankie Topham's house. I was wearing my brother's shirt because he was away at college, so he wasn't gonna fucking know. So I was rocking this smooth ass white button down shirt with some probably acid wash jeans. I mean, it's early 90s, people. I was looking sharp. Long story short, I get into it with I was at a party with a bunch of people older than me, and I get into it with a kid who was like 3 times the size of me. Now, let me be clear with you individuals. I was 200 pounds by my junior year in high school. I'm a fairly large, though short, so you can, I guess, say shit brick house type of kid, and I was always like that. I'm looking at this kid before the fight starts and knowing full well he's 3 times the size of me. I don't have a choice. I don't have a chance. I got people tapping me on the shoulder who don't even know me, like, oh, you might want to reevaluate this. But I had to defend the situation. And the situation was this kid poured soda over me, thinking it was a joke. I'm thinking in my head, I'm going to get my ass whooped anyway. It's either going to be this kid or it's going to be my brother. It's probably going to be both, so I might as well have a chance at something. I knew I had a chance with my brother, so I took a shot at this kid knowing full well I was going to lose the fight. So I went into it knowing I'm going to lose the fight. Long story short, I lost the fight. It's bad when people who don't even know you after a fight come up to you and just randomly touch parts of your head like, oh, shit, I've never seen it like that. So, yeah, the fight did not go my way, and I knew it going into it. And, yeah, so I was right, I guess, on that. But if we're going to stick back to the subject, and I brought you guys to the 5-minute mark, it's like I said, I did not do the homework up until 5 minutes before class. And even then, we can scarcely call this home or work or any of the two combinations. There was a book that I grabbed randomly. There was a book that I grabbed randomly on a trip somewhere. I forgot where it was, but you know how it is. You're in the airport. There's only so many different magazines you can buy. I rarely read through those magazines anyway. Fun fact, I did grow up reading a shitload of gaming magazines to the point where I used to get kicked out of EBX because I would be talking shit while the store clerks would be saying something demonstrably wrong. And I'd be like the person next to the parent, like, that's wrong. Don't get your kid that. That's all bullshit. Oh, let me explain the graphics. And finally, the manager's like, look, kid, either you want a job or get the fuck out of my store. And I'm like, well, I'll see you tomorrow. But so anyway, I'm walking through the airport. I pick up this random ass book. I'm not a great reader. I'm not a voracious reader. I'm not like these two gentlemen or even my wife or my brother, my mom. People read like left and right, can read tomes of books left and right, days or weeks at a time. If I start a book, it's going to take me probably like half a year. But anyway, I'm bored. I got nothing else. I think all my batteries on my video games are dying. So I pick up this book. It's called Cell. I'm like, what the hell is this about? It's by this writer named Robin Cook. Now, I think I've read 1 or 2 of his books. It's kind of like speculative fiction. He's cool, dude. Whatever. So I pick it up, read it, read the description. It's about medication being distributed through your cell phone. Now, I'm all into that kind of sci-fi. I think I made it clear I love all sci-fi. I'm down for that. But when you get into the sci-fi that's like that kind of speculative, that kind of, hey, this is kind of around the corner, that kind of Black Mirror type of sci-fi, which also another fun fact, a little tidbit, a little titty about, or titty, ditty about. This is what happens when my head is completely chaotic, more than you normally hear. Little ditty about Black Mirror, or a little ditty about myself. I love shit like Black Mirror, and I was one of the few people who liked it the first season before it became big. But anyway, this book, Cell, it was very in that vein, and it was talking about people getting medicine, in this case, insulin, through an app that happened through your phone and another hardware device that you wore on your body. It went the way you probably think if you're reading this kind of sci-fi. You know, there's some scary moments. There's, you know, these capitalists in hospitals that kept looking for profit margins and would kill people off so they can improve the app and, you know, get full control. And there's all this different sort of like cloak and dagger stuff. But it really just came down to the scary idea of what would happen if all of a sudden the thing that we're so connected to, our cell phone, starts being so integral in our life that controls our ability to stay alive. Well, I know I ran out of time, so I'll just quickly let you know, come February 2022, guess what the FDA just approved of? An insulin pump that will be distributed by your phone. So good luck. Put those updates on. Probably stay away from some of those websites on your phone. And yeah, I guess that book was right. I don't know.
Woo! Okay, I just want to take a moment here. I'm going to step back. I am going to give the commentary as necessary. But first of all, to everyone listening here, Three of Clubs loves to come across as the Joker and self-effacing, and I'm not doing the homework and all that. And he started that story off with him getting beat up by a kid who was like 3 times his size, right? And then he
shout out to Joe Bossio.
And then he lands it exactly on the goddamn nose. He is Rodney Dangerfield in Back to School, asking for the extra, asking for that extra
triple Lindy, baby,
with the triple Lindy. Okay, so don't buy into his bullshit. All right, we're on to you, man. And nevertheless, calling out Boston's own Robin Cook, who has been writing medical thrillers for years. As you say, with a lot of prescience, if not in the actual thing. He first made it big on a book called Coma, which was the idea of Boston hospital putting people into a coma to harvest their organs. All right, maybe a little far out there, but within a lot of those books, he has talked about this is in the 70s and 80s. He was already starting to see some of the problems with the American medical system and insurance. Right, he was definitely seeing the pitfalls of medicine for profit, without a doubt. So, you know, excellent landing on that one there, Mr. Oh, you know, I don't know. I'm just up here, talking about my time that I got soda poured over my head. Damn it, man. You just absolutely nailed it. Landed.
To be clear, I had to stretch 5 minutes of material into 10. So, yeah.
Oh, that's just why we call you a professional. That's all. That's just how that goes.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, and I liked Black Mirror too, but I didn't watch it when it first came out. It's kind of like I liked it. It was kind of like the Twilight Zone, but you know, technology is the boogeyman, and it really, you know, drilled in, like, you know, how if you wanted to frame them as dangerous, most of the technology we have right now is dangerous, and how it would not. The thing that got me is like how it really would not take much.
Nope.
It really wouldn't.
No.
It really would not take much. Like you really would just have to like take just a couple of these technologies and have them work together. And more often than not, you're already signed up. That's the thing. Yeah, you're already signed up. You know, like you can say no, but it's like, all right. I mean, you've already given us like 30 years of information on you. So you can go ahead and say no, but we've already got you. So yeah, it really wouldn't take. I think that's the thing that got me the most about that series.
Two things always got me with Black Mirror and largely the idea of like sci-fi in its entirety, and the idea of takeovers, whether it's alien or what have you. One, I argue that if something like the Terminator or any sort of robotic AI takeover were to happen, I argue it actually already happened. It already happened. And the easiest way to do what they want to do is just make sure we don't notice a difference, which I frankly think would be super easy. Matter of fact, I think it's embarrassingly easy. And I think AI's already figured that out, because you're right. And we already have that going. We already have interconnected devices in our house that we don't even know are connected. And it just takes a moment for it to start figuring, not it figuring out, but us figuring it out. But we already have devices. If you bought any technology in the last 10 years, I guarantee you there's something else in your house talking to it, and it's constantly talking to it. So chances are there's probably an AI network that's all set up and is already taken over, and we just think we're pulling the levers, or like little kids at an arcade who think they're playing video game, but there's no quarter in there. I feel like we're probably already at that spot as humans. When Black Mirror, a lot of people love to point out the dog episode as the scariest one, which hits a little close to home considering where we live. Listeners, we live in Boston. We are down the street from where those dogs are not only traded, but being perfected.
I actually am sitting right now, probably 2 to 3 miles away from where that building is. Actually, I drive by that building back and forth every day on my way to work. So I know. And
I don't know if this is going to save me when the dogs take over or not, but I do know and grew up knowing this man, one of the head scientists over there. So I don't know, maybe a little close. But the thing that scares me the most with Black Mirror, and another fun fact, I love that show so much, and I was always for that show. And when it got released on New Year's Eve, one time, I think of season 2, got released on New Year's Eve. That was one of the happiest New Year's Eves I've had in so long. Sarah could not understand it, and I literally was on cloud 9 for 5 days because that show came out. But scariest episode to me when it comes to Black Mirror is the one where people got judged off of their social interactions. And that kind of moved you up or down, because immediately I'm watching, I'm like, I'm fucked. There's no way in the world, I'm existing in this world, because I don't have it in me to have a high score. I don't have it in me to be trying to butter up and get to like 500 or whatever. I'll be like one of those 200 people who basically have to scrape the ground for food.
Well,
in that world, I would definitely be Dennis Leary from Demolition Man.
Yeah, we're eating rat and calling it Taco Bell.
Yeah,
Taco Bell. Yeah,
I'm not gonna be able to make it through that world. And on a quick side note, because you guys mentioned Glenn Ross, Kevin Spacey was also in a movie called Margin Call, which is also about corporate America, which is kind of funny. You could almost say it's the sequel to Glenn Ross. And then to make it a trilogy, he's in another movie called Billionaire Boys Club, which is also touches on a lot of issues that we're seeing today. So if you want to do the Kevin Spacey financial world fuckery trilogy, I just gave it to you.
Dubs here. Well, I'll just intervene with, of course, Rashawn, you liked Black Mirror before it was cool. I totally think that all three of us, and I'm willing to bet the majority of our listening audience here, would have been just fine with a Black Mirror New Year's Eve. I gotta be honest, it sounds like a perfectly fantastic New Year's Eve to me, as far as it goes, because anything past when I was 22, never really had a lot of affinity for that holiday. But let me keep this tradition of potentially throwing people under the bus here going, because it's I'm gonna land this on Starchild here, and I want to hear like his future shock moment, his looking back on it, and whatever medium it is, comic books, movies, what got it right for you, man? What really nailed, what was that insulin pump in the cell phone moment for you?
Really, I want to start on, I'm gonna give two examples, and I'm gonna stick to movies because I think you said movies, so I was just like, all right, let me focus on movies. But I wanted to stick on one documentary and then another classic film. So my documentary is I Am Not Your Negro. I know it's me bringing up I Am Not Your Negro again. I got it. It's fine. But you know what? Get used to it. Get used to it. It's that good a documentary. I recommend it. If you have seen it already, watch it again. If you haven't seen it, watch it. And it's on Netflix, and it's about James Baldwin and his essays and writings and quotes and speeches. It doesn't talk too much about his personal life, but it does go on about just his philosophy. And the reason I say that it foretold the future is because one thing he tried to plead, I'll say plead, but plead to European Americans and get them to understand that the mechanisms they created in order to oppress these other peoples, all of those peoples, are going to claim you someday too. You know, this inhumanity that you're showing to them is someday going to turn around on you, and it's going to claim your society. Like, you won't be able to stop it. It'll be too late, because by then it will be common practice. By then there won't be anything that will be able to stop particularly poor whites, you know, because for a long time poor whites, they just kind of wore that, you know, badge of being an American as a way to say, okay, yes, I am like the people who dominate our society. Like, I can at least say that I have that kinship with them. Nah, you don't. It's a useful tool, and it has been useful, but it's going to bring you down. And then talking to all other European Americans and trying to get them to understand that not only is this going to destroy, you know, the legacy and the moral capital of the country that you want to build, but it's going to destroy you as well. Fast forward to today. Now, again, Baldwin was most prolific in the 60s, but fast forward to today. That's precisely what's happening. That's exactly what's happening. Those mechanisms that they created to oppress people, to give more influence to the wealthy, to deregulate, to make it a society where, you know, a lot of free thought is demonized and seen as un-American. And those oppressive tactics are all turning around on them now. Suddenly, they're the ones who aren't thrilled when a factory closes down. Suddenly, they're the ones who aren't able to get the basic supplies. Suddenly, they're the ones waiting in long lines very early in the morning for very basic medical care or food in some cases, or to get social benefits. And a lot more of them are on welfare, and a lot more of them aren't seeing anything valuable in what used to be the honorable American grind. Suddenly, they're the ones who are feeling cynical about it. And that was what James Baldwin saw a long time ago. You know, like, it wasn't so much, hey, let us in just because it's the right thing to do, because, you know, you could. But it was also save yourselves. Save yourselves. This thing that you've made is going to get ugly, and it's going to claim you and your children. And quote James Baldwin, he said, "You cannot lynch me and becoming something monstrous yourself. And furthermore, you give me a terrifying advantage. You never had to look at me. I had to look at you. I know more about you than you know about me." And that's a brilliant quote. That's a brilliant quote, because it says that even though I have seen this really ugly, nasty side of you, I'm still willing to say that I want to save you. I want to save you from a future that is going to be, just look at what you're doing to them. That's going to be you someday, because it's going to claim your society. And it has. Look at the monsters they have become, not just, you know, the shooting that just happened in Buffalo, but other instances where, again, we brought up Sandy Hook. Sandy Hook, you, in order to stay in this role that you've created for yourself, you had to ignore 20 white babies being murdered at school. And I believe it was 7 other people as well, in an affluent suburb. You had to look the other way. You had to do your best to look the other way in Las Vegas at a country show. You know, a lot of people died, but even more were shot. This was a massive trauma to these people who were predominantly white. And, tons of other examples. We could honestly, do a marathon on this, but Baldwin was trying to save them. And if you look at the world that they've made, he was 100% right. They needed saving. They need saving. So that was going to be go see, just watch I Am Not Your Negro. And the next one, I'm just going to fall back on the perfect 2001 A Space Odyssey. I don't know if I've ever done any 2001 because I do love Stanley Kubrick, even though I guess he was a horrible human being and an even worse father. But yeah, 2001 A Space Odyssey, probably one of the best openings I've ever seen, because I love how he just goes from, monkeys with sticks fighting over a puddle of mud to outer space. Because the truth is, until we reach that next level of consciousness, we're just monkeys fighting with sticks. We're just monkeys with sticks. We're just monkeys with sticks. Well, okay, yeah, we got our smartphone, which is a better stick, and we've got petroleum and data to fight over, but that's really still just a puddle of mud. Like we're just monkeys with sticks. Jets, fine, really fast sticks, but we're just monkeys with sticks. And I think that's an absolutely beautiful metaphor, because it just says that primal programming, that self-destructive savagery, that's just who we are now, and probably, if we make it to that far distant future. But it did predict, even though it predicted it much further, but it did predict AI. We all know HAL 9000. And HAL 9000 was the AI that, spoiler alert, does turn does turn on the characters in the film. And it does a very good job of being just sinister as hell, even though the beauty of the voice that they chose was that it was very calm, a very, very even voice, but at the same time, it will absolutely kill you. And that's exactly it. I think that's the thing that it predicted even before Black Mirror predicted, that all of these things that will kill us will be packaged in the friendliest, just warmest, most loving exterior, and we will absolutely trust it. And then it'll turn on us. That's part of the point. So I definitely think it predicted that. I think it definitely predicted the fact that we're going to have to seek other frontiers, but not. I mean, yeah, Star Trek was already out by then, but just the idea that that's the only way we're going to achieve anything besides monkeys with sticks, that next level of consciousness, and I think that's what a lot of people right now are thinking, because, people are becoming much more secular. People know more about the universe, even if we can't totally understand more about the universe. We know more about the universe. So, you have these people who are always saying, if that's what the universe wants for me, or the universe is trying to tell me something, because once you stop dealing with these 6,000-year-old Asian stories in the Bible, you're going to have to move on to something that's going to be able to encapsulate how you understand the universe and the galaxy now, not just your village, not just natural phenomena that you need a myth for, but what we know and how we comprehend the universe post theory of relativity. And that, I think that's another thing that they predicted in the film, because that will be the only thing left. That will be us going back to mother, like whatever we were before we go back home, before we were born, that, formless energy that just ended up in this meat sack for a little while. We're going to have to say that energy is going to go back to what? That consciousness is going to go back to what? That larger meaning that actually makes sense in the world that the universe that we comprehend now. It's going to do what? Even if I don't know, I just need to know what that consciousness, that energy with a memory, is going to do. And yeah, I think he saw us thinking about that before anyone else.
Wow.
So good job, guys.
You picked.
That was in 1968.
That was,
Yes.
you picked an all-time favorite movie. I just want to quickly interject that I love, one, as you say, Hal, I'm sorry, Dave. I'm afraid
sorry,
I can't,
Dave.
Can't do that. Right. It's right before he kills you. My personal favorite fact, or just the way he expressed it in that film was, mankind's first evolution, right? When after the monkey touches, or the ape, if you will, touches the monolith, right? He immediately gets the idea of, hey, I can pick this bone up and beat the shit out of this other monkey. I can bludgeon him to death with it. This is fucking great. So
monkeys with sticks.
Right, exactly. Like that is the moment, right? He's like, wait a second, they just, whoever the actor was in the suit did a great, he's just sort of just tapping it on the ground, kind of getting a rhythm, and he's like, wait a minute. It's like, and sure enough, he's got a whole gang of them. Right, the next thing you see, he's got six guys with
the other monkey was offbeat. What we really were watching was the first band breakup. that's really, it's just like, God damn it, man, if you miss this beat one more time,
I'm gonna beat the shit out of you.
We'll find a new use for this. I promise you, it won't be so rhythmic. As for quick, I hope. Thanks. One, excellent job, at least in the beginning of your James Baldwin. I picked up on that, trying to pick up on his accent and deliver that quote in the James Baldwin accent. Don't think you got that past me, man. You changed some inflection points when you're doing that quote, Greg. I heard that. Two, never noticed this before, but is that a katana in the corner of your room? Yeah, did not see that coming. Three, you SOB, could you said on our text message conversation?
Actually, yeah, it is.
You said in our text conversation leading into the subject that you're going to do Terminator. So I stayed away from that. Way to pull a hook and switch on me, bastard. And then third, as much as I'm with you on Space Odyssey, that did come out in 68. Both Asimov and Herbert talked about AI in books before. Dune came out in earlier 60, and then Asimov with iRobot, at least with iRobot. I mean, we're talking about Asimov, so he has probably about 2 or 3 other examples. But your point is still selling it. I'm just pointing out. And also shout out to I guess the poor white mutts of America, because I left you out in who was in my stratosphere growing up. You guys were always, I was just thinking in my head, my man Brian Shaughnessy's gonna hear it's like, motherfucker, like I wasn't there the whole time. Love you, Brian.
Well, I'm glad you circle back around to that. We don't want to leave Brian out of this, and there's always a Brian back there somewhere.
Brian, Jimmy, Will.
Okay.
Hello, Brian.
Sean, Chucky. We know everybody's got one in there.
Bobby,
somewhere.
Ricky, Mike. Oh wait, no, wrong neighborhood.
There's always a Mike. Trust me, and it's of somewhat dubious nature.
That was the new edition crew. So
that's true. Yeah, I'll give you that. All right.
You know what? You did it. It's not my fault. Cool it now. You've got to slow it down.
Slow down.
You're gonna lose control. All right, there we go. It's not my fault. He said it. It wasn't. It was Rashawn. He did it.
Like normal is my fault.
It's all that. It's also a Boston thing. So, I mean, we hold on to whatever stars we get out of here. That's all I'm saying.
You're gonna fall in
love. Can't forget New Edition. I mean, one can never leave that by.
Shout out to Roxbury.
Greg, that was some heavy stuff there, man. I absolutely loved it. I think, I'm going to step on in for my 10 minutes here. And, you touched on it, and you got it in the sort of macro, especially, Baldwin, by the way, that is in fact a fantastic documentary. So if you haven't watched I Am Not Your Negro, please go out and do so. It's still on Amazon to my knowledge. So if you're a Prime member, it's all you. 2001, I think you get it, right? This idea of our consciousness expanding beyond, our village, beyond our city, beyond our country, beyond our planet, right? And what does it all mean, and where does it all go? And right? One of the most spiritual ideas I've ever come across is a law in thermodynamics that states energy cannot be created nor destroyed, just transferred between entities. So, I ponder on that stuff all the time. It really is that. And I think you're right. He's asking that bigger spiritual question. I'm going to focus on a book that really blew my mind. It has been made into a movie, and I'll touch on it slightly. But I read this book around 1985, I'd say summer of 1985, and one of the sequels had come out, so I wanted to go back and read the original. Now, this book was published in 1972, I think, originally. And I think what is impressive is, and like I say, I'm going to bring the scope in to a little more micro, not quite the universal scope that Greg just covered in, but this book predicted a change in warfare to remote warfare. It predicted the idea of trying to find genetic traits and mental traits and psychological traits of people who could execute this warfare better. It predicted the laptop and the tablet, ahead of time, and even the cell phone. It predicted the rise of the internet and what the effect that it would have on society. So not a small things, everything I just mentioned has come to pass, but you have to remember I was reading this book in 1985. And as I said, it was published much earlier in 1972. The book is Ender's Game. Okay. And certainly amongst our crowd and the listeners of this podcast, likely one that they've read. Absolutely changed my life. Just thought it was just such a fantastic read and such an interesting idea, particularly because it's centered around a child. In the book, young Andrew Wiggin, whose nickname is Ender, is one of he's a special thing because of extreme population control measures. He is born in a third child, and that's a big deal. And they were allowing his parents to have 3 kids, right? So there's a sort of question of what's going on. And Earth has survived an attack by a xenomorph type race, something that is in its very nature. It looks more like a bug, so they call them bugs or buggers. And they've already survived one attack, and they're prepping and waiting for the second one. So they are looking to recreate this military genius from the war that happened before. So they're looking for they're trying to look for kids with the traits that would have this kind of military command that would is going to be there and going to prepare Earth for this upcoming invasion, because they know with the distances in time and space, they only have so much time until the enemy returns, which is the focus on it. So young Ender is separated from his loving sister and his psychopathic brother, who were both candidates in this same program, brought to a space station where he trains in zero gravity combat and it slowly rises through the ranks, much though he's despised by some of his other crewmates. Others grow to love him, and he shows how to lead through love and how to lead through loyalty as opposed to punishment. And later goes on, I guess I'm gonna, goes on to go on to a series of games that, now I'm going to give you the big spoiler alert for this. They turn out not to be games at all. They turn out to be engaging with the enemy. It turns out that Earth had to launch a fleet many, many years prior to his birth just to reach the planets that they're going to fight, and the generational combat that's going to happen way out in space. And sure enough, turns out all these times that he thinks he's in a game, he's actually commanding the army. Him and his other children are commanding the army they've sent out to take out this alien race. So that in and of itself was very forward looking. If you look at drone technology today, we're already on the cusp of that, right? Throughout the last 20 years, all we've seen on our television screens is guys sitting in just outside of Las Vegas, Nevada, in trailers with joysticks now, totally making the decision that comes into battlefield decisions, combat, all sorts of things, all kinds of real-time information given across a large distance. So yeah, we're still on the planet, but here he is in the 70s, well before any of this stuff, comes out predicting all of this. In that book, he called the kids had a thing called a desk, which is your tablet or your laptop computer. Again, early 70s, right? Nobody had a concept of this. I, growing up at that point in the 80s, around 85, had seen desktop computers only. Maybe a few what they called portable computers. Let me tell you something. The portable computer back in the day was anything but portable, okay? I mean,
Oh my God.
it still weighed around 50 pounds. And I'm not exaggerating, right? It could just fold up and had a handle on it and could travel, quote unquote, with you. I mean, it was anything but portable. Hell, even your cell phone was the brick, for crying out loud.
Josh, sorry to interrupt real fast, but that head scientist or one of the head scientists responsible for bringing us the apocalyptic robotic dogs in our future, he also used to regale us with stories of one of his first research positions. They had a computer, and he would always love telling us how he had to walk into the room of the mainframe. Like he literally we would get so confused. We're like, wait, so it's in the room? He's like, no. The room was a computer. The monitor was about the size of a regular iPad, but the whole room was the actual computer. And it was way slower than anything he had in his house at the time he was telling us the story.
Amazing, right? So you start with that, and that to me is not even, and now I'm going to get to what I hope is the meat of my little presentation here. That's not even the most amazing thing of what this guy predicted in that book. And this is where people get into trouble. They saw the movie. Nice movie. I get it. I know what they were trying to do. But the fact is, it had to leave out the most important part of the story and the most amazing thing this man predicted. In that story, because Ender goes to fight the aliens, his brother and sister are left behind, but they're still geniuses. That's the thing. They're still, genetically engineered genius children. And they proceed to get online once again, early 70s. So online is just a concept at best that a few guys at DARPA are playing around with. And they proceed to take on alter egos that talk politics. And the brother, who is notably conservative and authoritarian, decides to take on the liberal persona, and he assigns to his sister, who is the more liberal and open-minded. She takes on the conservative persona, and they proceed to have an influence upon world politics to the point where his brother ends up becoming the hegemon and ruling the world. And this is where I'm like, holy crap, especially, looking over the last, say, 5-6 years in American politics. The author's name is Orson Scott Card. Okay. Orson Scott Card gave us the rise of QAnon, the rise of misinformation, the rise of Facebook, the rise of Instagram, all of that before it was even a concept, right? He had this idea that two children of superior intellect could get online and manipulate information to and how it was presented to the point where they could run the world. Now that, to me, you want to talk about a frightening level of seeing the future, right? Almost just being able to just see it down to the moment. To me, that still holds up. And of course, in the end, like I say, gets totally left out of the movie, which is unfortunate, because to me, that's the most interesting part of the film, right? You have the military and you have the political. And how the two of them end up interacting with it. Ender's the sympathetic character, and he's the one that most people identify with, myself included. And you want to be like him because he actually still has a heart and all these other things. And it brings up many more issues that I couldn't get into in 10 minutes. But that whole part about really, what the information age was going to be, what it was going to bring, what we were going to reap, and what we were going to sow, is so on the money. I mean, it's just amazing to me how clearly he saw that. I still would love to meet the man. I know some people who have, and just talk to him about that. I do laugh. I'll throw in one side note before I log
car
off.
Is slowly going off the road.
Oh yeah, I just think it was funny. Well, I did know that somebody took a course with him, and it was sort of funny because it was asked. He is a Mormon. So they asked about his religion and his writings, and he laughed and he said, to all my Mormon friends and friends of faith who read my books, they're too secular, and all the secular people who read my books, they're too religious. So I'm like, okay, all right, maybe you're getting it right if that's what people are thinking.
From what
about,
I understand, that's probably one of the better things he said, because thankfully some of his personal views did not seep into at least that book, although people should know it's a series.
That's
as
true.
you move through the series, you actually get a lot closer to the things he personally believed, which are not, I would argue, are anathema to the TSG and the TSG crowd.
I couldn't certainly believe that. Yes, the more you move through things, and definitely the more you go.
Don't get to know your heroes.
Yes, never meet your
not.
heroes. They always have feet made of clay, to say the very
I
least.
I love that book, man. One of my good friends gave me that book when I was writing my own. He's like, yeah, check this out. It was pretty cool. I definitely had a few different takeaways. Although I agree with you, what happened with the siblings was super interesting. I would argue the way the movie was made, it would have been impossible to focus on the kids. But I also argue with you that had they put in a little bit more effort, made the movie maybe like to 3 hours, which I'm never really for, and kind of expand on what's happening on Earth while Ender is doing his thing and how it's all connected to his family, probably would have been a really cool movie. But also, or I should say, however, shouldn't say but. When you say but, what you're saying is what you just said doesn't fucking matter. So, however, I would argue that just is another example of standing on shoulders, because the one we already talked about, it's actually two moments in our podcast that we've talked about. Greg, you did bring up Space Odyssey in our prove me right episode. Yeah, literally with monkeys and sticks. I know that because I just listened to it on the way home. And also we talked about the remote warfare beforehand in a little tour de force movie called Moon 44. And I would also argue that the way we learn what the actual war is and who is the aggressor and what the actual mission points are, at least at the end of the first novel in Ender's Game, I would argue is standing on the shoulders of the book we all are skipping over, because obviously TSG people, we're skipping over a lot of examples of things that were sort of the Nostradamus of their media craft. But you can argue that type of war in Ender's War was basically the same thing as what ended up really being a fictional war of Oceania in 1984, where we find out, if you're really reading through the lines, and you don't really have to read that hard, that the war in which they are perpetually fighting is a made-up war to keep people where they are. And that's kind of actually, hate to spoil it, people, for a book that came out in the 80s or earlier, 70s. That's actually what is happening in Ender's Game.
Well, we definitely were spoiling that book, but I there's no way to talk about it without doing it. But it's still, I think I think you hit on all those points of why it's still so prescient and still worth the read through. And I agree with you, by the way, had they moved it out to about 3 hours.
I mean, it's dead on, because you argue half of the wars we've been in our lifetime have been made up to push another agenda or profit line, sadly.
I think that's one of the challenges that with this particular topic, because we have touched on this a lot, like dystopia in the Matrix episode. And there's a lot of things that, they just
Josh's
make
kid
these outside. Making these kinds of predictions. I was actually thinking about saying fuck it and doing the Matrix again, because I think the only way the world is going to get better if you have more politicians with throwaway careers, more artists with throwaway careers, and more throwaway movies. It's like you have to make these points that will not be popular if you want them to be meaningful. And I thought that that last Matrix movie really did it. Like, not only that, I would argue that they knew this was going to fail, and she was definitely Lana Wachowski was definitely thinking, this is going to be a throwaway movie artistically, so I'm going to make sure that it's a throwaway movie that's poignant. And so, like, I wanted to touch on that. Total Recall I was thinking about doing a comparison between the Total Recall and what is it, the Mockingjay,
Hunger
Hunger
Games.
Games.
Hunger Games. Like I wanted to do something like that, but there's a ton of stuff. Judge Dredd, like do a comparison between Judge Dredd and Dredd. There's a lot you can do. You can have a good time with this topic.
Well, I think it's inevitable that as they said in Battlestar Galactica, all this has been done before and will be done again without a doubt. But I think it's important for us to still point. It's okay for us to occasionally circle back on our points.
Circling. If we were going to circle back, I think we should circle back to one of the things that we started this podcast, or at least I believe we started our podcast. I have no clue what we're going to sound like before Josh edits people. So this could easily be in the middle of the podcast. But point being is, like, we brought up how some scientists of note are starting to at least be open to the theory that we exist in either a simulation or that we exist in multiple dimensions. But when you actually read some of those articles and not just skim through the headlines and start reading the quotes of some of the scientists, what they're who are being quoted or at least referenced in these articles, a lot of times what ends up happening is kind of the thing I've been arguing throughout our entire existence as CSG and really my entire life. One of the things they keep pointing out is, like, do we actually know any of the laws that we've been holding ourselves accountable to? Like, when we start going down this line, we have to change profoundly a lot of principles that we've been standing on or hoping on or agreeing on. We have to reevaluate almost every single thing that we know. And if we're going to reach a quote unquote new evolution spot, we're probably gonna have to do that because, frankly, we have to understand, or at least admit to ourselves, that maybe we weren't right on every turn. Maybe there's a few moments that we're existing in right now that are the equivalent of thinking the sun revolves around us.
Well, I will say I'll stand for the moment. I'm going to hold on with both hands after that statement to energy cannot be created nor destroyed. That's all. That's all I hope is still a constant in the universe, but who knows, right?
You can always have that, but you also have to, on that spectrum, you always have to keep the possibility of or nothing.
There is that too. Too.
Yeah. So as long as that's on the table as well as it should be, by all means.
Well, all laws, principles, and theories are human made. So long as we understand that and move with that principle, we have to understand that if we use the mathematical equation or equivalent, we could literally be within the parentheses of a very long formula that at the end of the parentheses could still be multiplied by 0. So no matter how complex or simple we may believe that we are, or whatever transaction we think that we're responsible for, or how we explain it, it could end up being at the end of it, we're still multiplied by 0.
Well, shit, that got
or
deep.
Nothing. Exactly.
Well, that's the point of being multiplied by 0.
Or nothing.
Man, for 3 guys that like to get together and talk about movies and comic books, that just got really deep. I mean, I'm just saying that. Well, I'll be thinking about that the rest of the night, and about my son seeing ones and zeros when he closes his eyes.
It's part of the simulation, man.
And completely, man. I don't know if we're glitching right now or if we're on that, but wherever.
No, that black cat that keeps going behind you. That's the glitch.
Deja vu. The cat named Deja vu. Well, with that, wherever you are in the Matrix, if you can pop on over on your terminal, in your mainframe, on your desk, whatever you want to call it, pop on over to Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you can rate and review these podcasts. Go on over and give the Steam Gentleman your 5 stars, and you can type whatever you like in there. You can even type out some insults. We totally understand. If you have a subject for us, if you want to hear us talk about something, go on to our email address, which is doyouevensteambro@gmail.com. We're on the socials, again, on Instagram, Do You Even Steam Bro. We are on Facebook, which a lot of you have found us on lately, the Steam Gentleman Podcast. We're on Twitter at the Steam G. Let us know what you think. Send us some funny memes or whatever it works, whatever way we want to interact with you, Steam people, even more. We want to help keep pushing that nefarious Steam agenda. talking about pop culture and social commentary. So it's still early in the week, but I do want to check in with my fellow teammates here, with my fellow panel members, Greg and the Star Child. Greg, the Star Child himself. What do you have on for the rest of this week?
Oh, it's absolutely nothing sexy. It's going to be filled with old family members.
Well,
Yeah, nothing cool, nothing fun.
You're inherently one of the sexiest people I know, so I just don't think you can help it. You may think it's nothing sexy, but
So please text that to my wife.
On the spectrum
just
of
do me a
sexy,
favor.
on the spectrum of sexy, it's still an 8. I won't give you the far number. I'm just saying it's still an 8. That's all. You can assign whatever number you want at the top.
Greg, she still said yes, man. Just hang with that.
All right.
And 3 of clubs, Rashawn Smith. It's early in our week in our new recording schedule these days. But what you thinking? You got your sights set on anything from this week heading into the rest of the weekend?
Just try and make it to another payday, my man. But if I can echo or parrot what you said, y'all please rate this. Help us get some sponsored dollars. We want to give you more content. Don't you want more content? Don't you want more of this? Don't you? Don't you? I dare you. I dare you to make us more famous. I dare you to make us quit our day job. You think we don't have more of this? We got so much more of this.
I double dog dare you. It was the dreaded double dog dare.
Ooh.
Yes, we're telling people in the podcast world to do the equivalent of sticking their tongue on the frozen pole in the winter.
I was about to say we'll leave someone out there with their tongue stuck to the pole, like we never even knew that guy. Which, by the way, is you talk about a lot of fucked up parts in that movie. That to me is one of the most fucked up parts in the whole movie. No one said shit. They act like they even know that kid. They're just like, what, Ruff? No, we don't know that kid.
You don't know that kid. About? What are you talking about? He took the double dog dare. He knew what he was getting into.
We don't know that kid. That is like Greg just showed some random kids showing up at our school. Just want to hang out for a few subjects and then go back to his school. We don't know that kid. We don't know kids who put their tongues on frozen toilets.
It's true. Yeah.
Josh, what are you doing for the rest of the week?
I'm going to be seeing if my son can learn and download Kung Fu. We're going to start with that, see how that's going.
So selfish.
After that, I may, like I say, we're going to see if he knows Kung Fu. We're going to see if he can get me into the rave in the center of the earth, and maybe help do my taxes, like those types of things. Yes, we had to do an extension on those. So, I'm at least going to see if I can take advantage. Maybe I'm Cypher, right? Maybe that's the case there. And he's Neo, right? I just want my
maybe I'm Cypher.
Maybe I'm Cypher. Who knows, right?
I didn't want to say it, but I have seen you with a bald head, and it's closer than people think.
Okay, all right, there you go. A little goatee there, and this steak, the steak tastes good. That's all I care about. Cypher, you knew where he was coming from, but that's all I got planned for it. Just as you say, living it day by day, trying to take it one day at a time, and trying to stop and notice all the little wins as they go along. Which getting together with you guys, absolutely a win every single time I do it. But in the meantime, it is I, Josh the Birdman. I'm gonna sign off. I'm gonna tell you all, keep loving each other, keep trying. Even if we're in the matrix, it's still worth it just to keep trying to find out what you love and keep doing those things that you love, and keep pushing hard and keep working for a better tomorrow. And you always keep that heat up and you keep that head of steam on.
Vin Diesel, I haven't forgot about you.
Finn, get back to us, baby.